just look around. You got the mountains, you got the most beautiful city in the whole entire country. The university is absolutely, looks like it's out of a storybook. It's just beautiful. People are incredibly genuine and extremely nice. It's just a place that obviously I'd want my kids to go to school. And it sells itself. You don't have to sell anything about this place. You just got to get them here. You know, the old field of dreams. Yeah. Build it and they will come. It's already built.
Pardon me and my tone. You can't step to my throne. They ain't working like me. I did this on my own. You asking where we been, huh? I don't know where to begin, huh? All this dirt on my skin. I just came here to win. I'm more than a man, I'm a monster. Somebody call a pastor, doctor. I got a 6 cents for imposters. So now I'm coming for the whole roster. It's not a game, why you playing with me? You could double back, lose track, try and hang with me. It must be in my veins, something you can't tame, cause I break the chains. Can't control me. I got the power, I got the keys, cause I break the chains. They try to hold me, I'ma push back. Just wait.
It was very casual. We were just kind of walking off the field, and he was like, "So what you gonna do?" I said, "I'm gonna come back next year." He was like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm excited. Let's go to Atlanta." And I was like, "Yes, sir. Let's make it happen."
Yeah, I didn't sign any mustard bottles or golf balls. Maybe wish I had had a golf ball that night. You know what I mean? But I'm only kidding. All right.
The team makes 2 takes win. Play for makes breaks, one must always score. If it hurts, the game breaks, no games, you know it up, put on more steam. Protect our kickers, our quarterback, our lead, our ball game. Ball, obstacles, block, cut, sides, 2 games after this win in. First year again, here for the first man. Carry everybody, keep it there 6 minutes.
There on the field, the pride of the Southland band crisply marches into the Giant T. The rear, the roar of 97,000 fans rises with each rhythmic step. In the background, George Beatsis is singing White Falls Fight. The orange and white shakers flood the air. The volunteers are ready at the north end of the football field to burst through the gate. They're coming now, racing onto the field through the Giant T. In that magic moment that says, wherever you are, it's football time in Tennessee.
Welcome to the Talkin VAWLS Network. My name is Boogie Bentley. It is Friday morning. We are on the verge of a gigantic game coming up on Saturday. I'm going to be honest with you guys. Look, full transparency, right? For the fans, by the fans. We get on here, we talk, we hang out. I tell you how it is, no matter how I feel. And it's Friday, and I need some encouragement. I need some encouragement because I'm nervous, I'm anxious, I feel sick to my stomach, but at the same time, it kind of feels good. Kind of feels good because it's been a long time since we're sitting around on Friday and we're nervous and we're anxious, and I like it. I like that feeling. I like that feeling of caring again. So come on in, guys. Smash the thumbs up. Going to be a fun show. We got Ben McKee from GoVols 247 coming up here in just a second. Then Gabe's going to be jumping on with me after that. We're going to talk about this Tennessee-Georgia game. I don't think the stage gets much bigger. I know we keep saying that each and every week, but it is the case. It is true. Every week the games get bigger. The stakes get bigger. This is going to be a big one. Let me run down the chat. See who is hanging out. Sam Hyatt is in the house. What is up, Sam? Peyton Manning's forehead trying to give me that pep talk that I need. TJ Lift, is that an App State hat? Yes, it is. I knew when I grabbed this hat and put it on randomly, I knew somebody was going to say something about it. But yes, it is an App State hat. Christopher Carter's here. What's up, Christopher? Trey Elder in the house. Key to the game, positive yards on first down. Stay ahead of the sticks. I'm not mad at that. Let me run down some super chats real quick. Matt Mars becomes a member of the channel. Thank you, Matt, for that. We appreciate it. Noah James for 5. Good morning, Boogie. Finally back in the green. Appreciate that, buddy. Thank you for being a member of the channel. Thank you for the super chat. Another 99 cents from Noah. Appreciate that. Set to 4 for $20.22. 2022. Feels like 2022. I like it. It's beginning to look a lot like 98. Man, it feels like 98 because I truly believe this feels like the biggest regular season game since $19.98. Kenneth becomes a member of the channel. Thank you, Kenneth. We appreciate it. John Hill for $21.98. Let's go beat Georgia. Hate Georgia. Let's go Big Orange. John, I know you hate Georgia just as much as I do, and I think that's why I'm so nervous and anxious, because this is my week, man. This is my week. P13 man 2013 for 2. Thank you for the super chat. I'll stay on top of the super chats, but I do want to get Ben on the show. Good morning, Ben. Welcome back to the Talkin VAWLS Network, buddy.
Good morning. How are you, my friend?
I'm nervous. I'm anxious. How you feeling? You're a little bit younger than me. This has to be the biggest regular season game of your lifetime. Has to be, right?
Yeah, at least going into the game. Obviously, there have been some pretty wild results. The 04 Florida game, the 2016 Georgia game, the Hail Mary game, obviously Tennessee, Alabama 3 weeks ago, a month ago, however long that was. So there's been some pretty unique results that would top this potentially, but at least the hype and the rankings and everything on the line, this is by far the biggest regular season game of my lifetime for sure, especially since I've gotten older and can comprehend everything and truly follow the team. It's without a doubt the biggest regular season game of my lifetime.
We're going to bounce around a little bit. A couple of things I want to throw at you. Of course, we're going to get into the Georgia game. But with that being said, with again, AP number 1 versus number 2, college football playoff rankings, number 1 versus number 3. The East is on the line. And it's fun, man. It's the beauty of college football. And I know you're a baseball guy, and there's nothing like playoff baseball. There's nothing like playoff hockey when everything is on the line. Do you think it devalues it? All the talk of expanding the college football playoff. Do you think we lose some of that magic of college football if they go that route?
No, not at all, because we have a 4-team playoff this week, and we have a playoff game or a 4-team playoff system now, and by virtue of that, we have a playoff game this week between Tennessee and Georgia, because that's what this is. This is a playoff game. Tennessee will beat Missouri, South Carolina, and Vanderbilt after this game, and if Tennessee can beat Georgia, then it's going to the college football playoffs, in my opinion, because I just don't think even a Tennessee team that were to lose in Atlanta in the SEC championship game, a 12-1 Tennessee team that lost in the SEC championship game, that beat Alabama, Georgia, and LSU in the regular season and beat Georgia on the road, that team's not being left out of the playoffs. So I don't think it devalues it at all, because you still have these massive regular season games that are massive because of the implications regarding the playoffs down the road. And I think that'll be the case when we expand as well. And you mentioned playoff baseball and some of those other sports. I think college football needs more of the playoff style of feel. I think we need more playoff games, because that's what makes sports best, in my opinion. I love college football more than anything, but I love the NFL playoffs. I love Major League Baseball playoffs. I love the NBA Finals, and I think we need to incorporate some of that in college football as well. Obviously, we have the big bowl games, and those are tremendous and whatnot, but I think the more playoff games, the better. And even though you may be taking away from some bowl games, and it may feel like we devalue some regular season games, there's also going to be games that are the value increases, just like this weekend. This game is so much bigger because of everything that is on the line and the right to go to the playoffs. So I don't think it devalues it at all.
College football always changing. One thing that has changed here recently, NIL and what that has done in the world of recruiting and for current players. And, some big time move yesterday by Danny White, going public, talking about NIL, mentions Spire Sports, mentions the Lady Vol Boost Her Club. What are your thoughts on that and what it means for him to actually go public and kind of promote NIL at Tennessee?
I think it's tremendous. I really do. I think that Tennessee was already ahead of the game in the NIL space. I think they're going to be even further ahead of the NIL space. And when NIL first dropped over the summer and the offseason, a lot of folks were questioning Tennessee and were they trying to get ahead of the curve, and some were upset that they weren't reacting quick enough. But all along, Danny White has been learning, watching, just sitting back and trying to figure out what is the best way to approach this, even in those early stages. And That's what Danny White does best. Obviously, he has a track record of hiring great coaches in every sport. But what he does best is raise money, which is just as important of a job for an athletic director as hiring coaches is. He's great at doing that, and this kind of falls under that umbrella, raising funds for the athletic department to make sure that all of the stadiums and practice facilities are renovated, but also now he can go out and raise money to make sure that the current players are taken care of, and also make sure that future players are taken care of as well. So I think it's big that he came out and publicly backed Spire and the Lady Vols club as well, because now, not that nobody didn't think that they weren't official, but it really stamps them, I guess you could say. And you saw how much money he smartly raised after the Alabama game, kind of using the goalposts as a funny reason to do so. And this is just be another way that under Danny White's leadership, Tennessee is going to be the best of the best in terms of athletic departments throughout America.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Obviously, other fan bases are going to turn that into a joke. But Danny White's a genius. Like, strike White. I mean, the fan base was so hot after that Alabama win. Everybody knew what he was doing, but everybody's still willing to throw that money in and celebrate an Alabama win. Guys, we got over 300 people watching live. We got Ben McKee from GoVols 247. Going to jump into this Tennessee-Georgia game coming up on Saturday. Huge stakes. Everything's on the line. And I think part of my nerves, part of what makes me anxious every week when I kind of look at the matchup and I read the articles and watch the games and I try to put together, I can see a path to victory. And I'm trying to find that path to victory for Tennessee coming up on Saturday. One thing I do like, if you look at that Kentucky game from last week, is the defense. Where did that defense come from? 205 total yards. They only gave up 107 on the ground, held Will Levis to 98 passing yards on 27 attempts. The forced the 3 interceptions. I think if that defense shows up, I think Tennessee's going to win this football game on Saturday. But do you expect that? And really talk a little bit about what was the difference in that defense. And I know Kentucky's not some elite offensive juggernaut, but that defense looked a little something special last week.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Boogie, if that defense shows up, Tennessee's winning by 20, 30 points tomorrow afternoon in Athens, because like you said, where did that defensive performance come from? And I think a lot of it had to do with Danico Slaughter and Brendan Turnage being thrown in there at corner and them performing really well. That was something that I would continue to do. I know Kamal Haddon's on the verge of coming back from injury. Christian Charles as well, and those two have kind of been the main two guys at corner. But after the way Brendan Turnage played and Danico Slaughter played at corner, I wouldn't toy with it. I'd keep the corner duo the same. And it was a small sample size. It was. But they played really well. And I would just ride it until they give me a reason not to, quite frankly, even with those other guys coming back. And those other guys are going to get mixed in, right? I mean, Slaughter and Turnage aren't going to play 60, 70 snaps a game, more than likely, depending on how many times Georgia gets to run plays. But obviously those two played really well. And then the theme all year with the defense is that the defensive line continues to play great football. They dominated Kentucky in the trenches, I thought. And Amari Thomas has been doing his thing all year long, but it's a different defensive tackle that steps up each week to help Omari and help Byron Young off the edge. And Tyler Barron feels like he's starting to get better and better each week as well. But last week, Dejon Terry comes out of nowhere and has a big game. So I think it starts with the trenches. The defensive line has played well all season long, and that's why they've been able to have success against the run. And then they finally got some help on the back end with Brendan Turnage and Danico Slaughter playing really well. But also Turnage and Slaughter benefited from Tennessee's defensive line pressuring Levis, getting him to freak out in the pocket, throw some things before he should, and not really allowing plays to develop. So I have confidence that Tennessee's defensive line is going to play well against Georgia. It's a really good Georgia offensive line, but I think it's a very equal matchup on paper on Saturday. And if Tennessee wins that matchup, then they're going to be sitting pretty.
Everybody this week, one of the big talking points, obviously, for Georgia's offense is their tight ends. Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington. Brock Bowers is just one of those elite type of kids, right? He just feels like a special type of athlete. And maybe I'll answer the question for you by saying this, but I think you talk about the defensive line. I think it's going to be crucial that they get after Stetson Bennett. But if you look to try to contain Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington, how do you think Tennessee goes about controlling those two guys at tight end?
Yeah, that is a fascinating question, and I'm real curious to see how they do so, because Brock Bowers he's one of the best players in all of college football. It's that simple. It's not often that you put a tight end in that conversation, but the reason he's in that conversation is because he does so much. You could line him up at receiver, and he may not have the greatest speed if he were a receiver, but he would still make plays. He can run routes. He can catch the football, obviously. They've used him in reverse scenarios. They've handed him the football out of the backfield, and then he'll also get on the line of scrimmage and get his nose dirty and block. So he is a complete tight end. He is not going to be a fun matchup for Tennessee, and neither is Darnell Washington, a name Tennessee fans are very familiar with. Because he picked Georgia over Tennessee during the recruiting process. And at 6'7", somebody that big should not be running as fast and moving as quickly as he does. He's a matchup nightmare for defenses, because he's too big for defensive backs, and then he's still too big for linebackers. But on top of being too big for linebackers, he's too fast for linebackers to keep up with him. So Tennessee's going to pay special attention to those guys. There's no doubt. If they're lined up on the line of scrimmage, they're going to try to chip them before they release from the line. And it's just going to be truly a team effort. It's, again, Byron Young chipping Brock Bowers when he releases before Jeremy Banks, Aaron Beasley, Juwan Mitchell, whoever it is, picks him up in coverage. And if they're in the slot, if they're split out wide, then I imagine they're going to be double teamed, because Georgia has good receivers. I believe A.D. Mitchell is going to play. I guess we'll see. He's kind of been their best receiver this year. And they still have some other solid receivers, but they've lacked explosive playmaking without A.D. Mitchell. So the fact that there's not those receivers that scare you, as we've seen in the past, maybe with like a George Pickens, that will allow Tennessee to show more attention to the tight ends. And that maybe scares you a little bit, because your corners will be left on an island with the receivers. But again, Georgia just doesn't really have any receivers that scare me, if I'm being completely honest. It's very similar to the Alabama game. Alabama has Jahmyr Gibbs, but outside of that, and obviously Bryce Young, they didn't really have any skill position players, especially at receiver, that necessarily scared you or you were just worried that they were going to win them the game. And that kind of feels the same with Georgia. When you look at the receivers and you look at the running backs. I like Kenny McIntosh, but again, he doesn't scare me. And Tennessee's been able to slow down the run all season. And the offensive line has just been pretty good as well. They haven't been dominant or great like they were last year. So I think if they can find a way to slow down the tight ends, that is really going to go a long ways to Tennessee winning.
Flipping over to the other side of the ball, you look at what Georgia does on defense. Obviously they score points too, and that's what scares me is they put up 41, almost 42 points a game. But defensively, this defensive unit's pretty good. You can argue and debate their strength of schedule, through the season so far. But last year, that team 5 first-round NFL draft picks a year ago. That's a lot of talent to lose. Kirby Smart just kind of plugs and plays, and this defense still is dominant. Again, giving up 10.5 points a game, only 85 yards per game on the ground. They're going to be without Nolan Smith. Announced that he's out for the year. But look, when we go back to last year, and we talk about Tennessee versus Georgia. Tennessee was scoring a lot of points last year, too. They come into that Georgia game. Georgia holds them to 17. I've said multiple times on this channel, and I'll continue to say it, I think Tennessee can score on any defense in the country. This offense feels special. Any concern going into this game with that Georgia defense versus the Tennessee offense, or do you just ride or die with Hendon Hooker?
I'm riding or dying with Hendon Hooker at this point. I'm not doubting Hendon or these receivers or Josh Heupel and Alex Golish's ability to get receivers continually open. It's marvelous what Heupel and Golish are doing in terms of game planning and scheming up matchups that they can take advantage of. And on top of Hooker and the receivers and the coaching, I think Jalen Wright is running the ball exceptionally well. Jabari Small is just a really solid SEC running back and is having a strong season when he's been able to not be banged up with that shoulder. And the offensive line is just dominating folks. And that's been the difference between last year and this year. Last year, Tennessee's offensive line was hit or miss. This year, they're dominating people in the trenches, and that is allowing Hendon Hooker to have time to make all of the plays that he is making. So it really has nothing to do with Georgia. I'm just not betting against this Tennessee offense at this point. I've kind of been waiting on the other shoe to drop all year long. Not really with the offense, but with Tennessee as a whole, just because of how unexpected this season is in year 2 of Josh Heupel. That's why I've been waiting on the other shoe to drop all year long. But this is the first week where, and I didn't expect them to lose to Kentucky. I picked Tennessee to win by like 20, but this is the week that it's like I'm just full on confident in Tennessee. I'm not second guessing or trying to think of why or how Tennessee could lose this football game. Obviously, it is a very real possibility. Georgia's the number 3 team in the country. It's at their place. They're 9-point favorites for a reason. They're not as talented, I feel like, as they were last year on both sides of the ball, but they still have a ton of talent, plenty of talent to beat Tennessee. Kirby Smart has built recruiting class after recruiting class after recruiting class, so there's plenty of talent over there. It's just I'm not betting against Hendon Hooker at this point, or the receivers or the rest of the offense and Heupel and Golish. So obviously there's a little bit of nerves in terms of Georgia slowing down Tennessee because they have the talent to do so. But I think something that makes me feel confident in Tennessee's ability to win is Georgia has not been able to produce negative plays on defense. And I do buy into the weak schedule that you mentioned. Outside of Oregon, which that win looks better and better each week, they haven't played impressive offenses. They just haven't. And maybe they show up against Tennessee, but to this point, they haven't really played anybody. And they've struggled in the teams that they have played at times. So the fact that they don't create negative plays, they're towards the bottom of the SEC. And on the flip side of that, Tennessee doesn't allow negative plays because of how the offensive line is playing and Hendon Hooker's ability to see the field. I expect Tennessee's offense to go in there and put up points. I don't know how many. I'm not going to say they're going to score 50 like they did on Alabama, but I think that they can get to 40. I really do. And it's going to come down to if Tennessee's defense can get enough stops to where Georgia's not going to be able to win in a shootout. And I also don't feel like the Georgia offense is built for a shootout. Bryce Young in Alabama is built for a shootout because of the offensive talent that they have. But I don't think that this Georgia offense is necessarily built for a shootout. So if Tennessee's defense can come up with a couple of stops, a couple of turnovers, I think there's a chance that Tennessee could win by double digits, quite frankly. I'm not going to predict that, but I really wouldn't be too surprised if that happened.
Hanging out with Ben McKee from Go Vols 247. Got one more for you, then we're going to get you out the door. Guys, go show Ben some love. I got his Twitter handle in the description down below. Also, how you can find his work over at Go Vols 247. And I'm going to plug your YouTube channel. Go check out Ben's YouTube channel. The biggest complaint that I get from this chat in the comments when we're watching press conferences is, can somebody please fix the audio? This audio's trash. And Gabe, my co-host, is getting ready to come on here in a second. He's like, you got to go check out Ben's YouTube channel because his audio's clean and you can hear it. So go check that out. Give him a sub if you want to keep those things clean where you can hear what's going on. But one more question, we'll get you out the door. When you look at this game and how you think it will play out, some people are saying, it's going to be a shootout and whoever has the ball last is going to win the football game. I had the controversial Uncle Lou on the channel on Wednesday night, a big-time Georgia YouTuber, and he came on and he said he thinks it comes down to whoever runs the football better is who's going to win this game on Saturday. If you had to look at one thing, what do you think this comes down to? And if you want to give us a score prediction, you can, and we'll get you out the door.
Yeah, I think that's a great point by Lou. I do think that whoever runs the football better, I think that will have a big impact on who wins this game. And both teams have been good against the run. Both teams run the ball well. But I do think that Georgia's running game, although good, they run for 202 a game. I believe it's fourth best in the SEC. Great numbers, great rushing attack. They do lack the explosive runs. When you look at the statistics of 20 yards or more runs and 30 yards or more, 40 yards or more. Those numbers are very small for what you would think that they would be when you look at their overall rushing total. So they lack the explosive running game that they've had in years past with Nick Chubb and Sonny Michel and even last season with those backs that are now off to the NFL. But Tennessee, as we have seen, they've been able to generate the explosive runs. And we'll see what they can do against a really nice Georgia front seven defensively. I ultimately think it's just going to boil down to Tennessee's defense. I don't think Georgia's offense is built for a shootout, as I was just discussing. But there's also that thought in the back of the head that this is the Tennessee defense that is behind the Tennessee offense. And I don't say that to disrespect the defense, because they've gotten better week in and week out. And how they played against Kentucky has given me more confidence that Tennessee can go down there and legitimately win this game on Saturday. It's just that it was a small sample size. I think Tennessee's defensive line is going to show up and play great football. But how are the linebackers going to be able to cover the Georgia tight ends? The linebackers in coverage have been an issue for 2-3 years now, and now they have the matchup of the year for them personally. And then the secondary. What we saw last week, was that legitimate, or was that a one-off? So to me, it's going to come down to the defense, because I think Tennessee's going to put up points, as I mentioned, and if the defense can come up with a stop or two or three and find a way to force a turnover or two, I think Tennessee definitely wins this football game. I think my final prediction on Go Vols 247 was, I think I said 42-38. So a little bit of a shootout, more than I've alluded to. I'm very interested to see if the defense has improved enough to where it really shows against Georgia, because I do think that they've gotten better from the start of the season until now. The Kentucky game and LSU game, holding both of those teams to 6 points is very impressive. So we'll see what happens on Saturday, but I do think Tennessee wins this football game. And again, I'm just not betting against Hendon Hooker in this offense at this point.
Ben McKee from Go Vols 247. Always a pleasure, man. Thanks for coming on. Always enjoy hearing you talk about Tennessee football. We appreciate it, buddy.
Yeah, Boogie. Appreciate you having me on, and hope you enjoy the game tomorrow.
All right, have a good one, buddy.
You too.
All right, let's do this thing, Gabe. I got to jam through a bunch of super chats.
Into it.
Just letting Ben rock and roll there. I didn't want to cut him off. So we got a lot of super chats to jam through. Then we'll get back into this Tennessee-Georgia game. Kenneth, for $20, that ain't cheap. He says, I'm not betting. I think he meant slip of the finger there. I'm not betting against Josh Heupel anymore. Let's go tame some dogs, GBO. You know, I said that, but here we sit Friday. I've got that nervous, sick feeling to my stomach. Chad Kirk for 2. Thank you for super chat. If defense that beat Kentucky shows up, it's over. I do agree with that 100%. Josh Barnes becomes a member of the channel. We appreciate that. Andrew N for $20. That is not cheap. Says, I'm right there with you, Boogie. Might be the battered ball syndrome, but I don't have the same gut feeling going into I don't have the same gut feeling going into Alabama. Someone changed my mind. The fiance and I have 2 tattoos riding on it. Whoa, we got another couple. We got another couple in the Talkin VAWLS chat. Are we talking Talkin VAWLS tattoos, Andrew? Are we talking power tees? What type of tattoos are we getting? Thank you for the $20, though. Very generous. We appreciate that. Rocky Top Tom becomes a member of the channel. Thank you, Tom. Trey Elder for 2. Nothing to say. Just a tip in the old tip jar. Jay Maxwell becomes a member of the channel. Joe Bird also becomes a member of the channel. Thank you guys for that. If you wonder what that is, you can see there he's got the name becomes highlighted green. It's easier for me to see in the chat. Highlight your comments. They get a power tee beside their name. They get access to fan call-in shows, custom Talkin VAWLS emojis, all kinds of fun stuff. You guys keep the lights on around here. We appreciate that support. So thank you, Joe. Hayden Castile with $5 super chat says GBO. Thank you, Hayden. We appreciate it. Baker Reynolds for $20. That is not cheap. What a year to find your channel. Keep the content coming. You're the man. Tennessee 42. Georgia 21. GBO. Sign me up for that. It's going to be a celebration on Saturday. If it's 42-21, let me roll with that. Glad you found the channel, Baker. This thing's blowing up, and it's because of you guys, the way you guys share the word. You talk about us, you tweet us, retweet us, let people know about Talkin Vols. It's becoming a big-time community. Proud of what we have built here, but thank you for the super chat, Baker. Mountain Doom for 5. Tennessee goes into Athens to make a statement. Vols 42. Georgia 17. A lot of confidence in this chat this morning. Bryson Necessary for 5. About to head to Athens. 4-hour road trip ahead of us. Hashtag GBO. Be safe. Have fun. Thank you for the super chat. Noah James for 5. When your family and brothers and you're all pulling in the same direction like this, win GBO. That's a huge part of it, man. That is a huge, huge part of it. Scott Thompson becomes a member of the channel. We appreciate it. Scott Rowley Season for 5. Tomorrow, history will be made. Believe in this team no matter what. However tomorrow looks until the last whistle, give your all for this team because they are. Thank you, Rowley, for the super chat. Gabe, what's wrong with me, buddy? Why is everybody so optimistic? Why is everybody so confident? And here I sit on Friday morning going into the team that I hate more than anybody is Georgia. And I don't have that confidence everybody else has. What is it? What is wrong with me? Do you have the confidence?
I do have the confidence. And maybe it's because I don't hate Georgia as much as you do. I'm more of a Florida hater. Georgia's never been that annoying to me. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know what's wrong with you, Boogie. I'm just trying not to think about it yet. Right? Like I'm trying not to like get in that zone, like pregame mood, because the moment that happens, the second I wake up tomorrow, I'm gonna be feeling it in my stomach. So I'm just trying. I'm not trying. I'd like to live through today first. You know what I mean? But also because it is, you know, with Bama, we said, all right, we're probably we might lose this game, we might win this game. We're clearly a pretty good football team, you know. But it's Bama, so we'll see. And then we beat Bama, and then we beat Kentucky, and now it's like everything we've said everything we said probably wouldn't happen at the beginning of the game or at the beginning of the season is happening. We're 8-0 going into Georgia week, and you win this Georgia game, you go to the SEC championship and lose, it doesn't matter. You have a shot at the SEC championship, and you will be in the playoff. They're not going to leave a team that beat Alabama and Georgia out of the playoff. So I don't know. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's because it's just a massive game. It's a rivalry game. You know, maybe that's what's wrong with you, Boogie.
Let me hit these couple of super chats because they're kind of funny. Well, Doug Shelton becomes a member of the channel. Thank you, Doug. I never in a million years thought I would get 2 super chats about the same thing. Stevie J for 10 says for a hairbrush for Gabe. Go Vols. Dakota follows that up with 2 and says, Gabe, go brush your hair.
My hair is naturally curly. And y'all, it's just the way it is. If I brush it, it looks disgusting.
The chat's all over you today. They want you to brush your hair, and they're mad because you don't hate Georgia. I think it's okay. They hate me because I have an App State hat on. Hey, they're here, though. We got 500 people watching live. You guys smash the thumbs up. Do that for us. That's quick, free, and easy. Hit that thumbs up. We would appreciate it. If you can hit share, blast this thing out on Facebook, Twitter. We would appreciate that as well. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. I feel the way I feel because the game is so big. I mean, it's everything. And, you know, we've been talking about this team's resume compared to other teams, compared to, everybody else, Ohio State, all those teams up there in the top of the rankings. This team's resume was better. And when the college football playoff rankings come out, Tennessee's at number 1. So now it's no longer talk. It's no longer us saying, well, their resume this is why. They are there. They're the number 1 team in the country. It doesn't matter what people say. I saw the clip floating around Twitter with the guy absolutely dropping F-bombs and cussing and carrying on about Tennessee. I thought it was so funny, and I'm not saying the people's name, but I'm going to talk about it in context, I guess. The guy's rambling and screaming and saying that Tennessee's about to find out and that they're going to get dominated by Georgia. Then he dominated. He used the word dominated. Then he went so far out there to say by 10 points. That's not domination. Stop yelling and screaming at a microphone and dropping F-bombs and talking about domination and blood and guts and everything else that guy said, but then he's scared to go more than 10 points. So this team's legit, but I think that is part of the nerves, is because it's not just the East. It's the East. It's a legitimate shot at an SEC championship. It's a legitimate shot at a national championship in year 2. And we talk about the stories all the time, growing up through the 90s, the success, seeing that national championship. I got a taste of the top of the mountain, Gabe. Do you understand? I've been to the top of the mountain. I've had that taste. You haven't. You don't know what you're chasing. You don't know what I've got that little taste of it, and I want it back. And there were times over the last 2 decades where people like me, people my age, we are we ever going to get that again? And then for your age, it's, well, are we ever going to have a shot at a national championship? It's all on the line Saturday. That's why I'm so nervous. I know it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is massive. I am going to be extremely nervous tomorrow, like sick nervous, because this is huge for me as well, because like you said, I've never even being a fan of Tennessee since they've been mediocre. I've known what they've come from and what they've done in the past, but I've never gotten to witness that for myself. So finally being here at the top, seeing Tennessee reach the number 1 ranking in any poll is really cool, but there's still a lot to be done. It doesn't matter too much. I'm not gonna necessarily remember Tennessee being ranked number 1 if we lose 2 games now and go to, you know what I mean? Like, that's just, we talked about this like a week ago. I don't remember when it was exactly, but we talked about, dang, now it feels like if Tennessee loses a game or 2 and then goes to the Sugar Bowl, it'd almost be a disappointment instead of the playoff at this point, because that's the position this team has put themselves in. And I'm
not drinking Coors Light at 9:30 in the morning. Sorry, Gabe.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I personally wouldn't take a season like that as a disappointment, because at the beginning of the season we were saying, 8-4, 9-3. I think I was realistically an 8-4 guy. I wanted to go 9-3, but I was like, probably 8-4. It's a rebuild. We'll get there. Blah blah blah. At least last year was still exceeding expectations, and we already have those 8 wins. So this is a game with massive implications on everybody's season. But personally, I think that there's more pressure on Georgia this week. There's a lot more pressure because there is less of a chance for Georgia to make it into the playoff if they lose than there is for Tennessee to make it in if they lose, as well as Georgia being ranked number 3. Being beat might kind of slide them down further than Tennessee if they were beat. So I don't know. It's I think there's more pressure on Georgia this week, and we'll see if they can handle it.
Let me jam through a few Super Chats real quick. Rolly season for 5. Thank you for Super Chat. Streaks are made to be broken, and Georgia never has more than 5 on us, and they are at 5 now. Streaks are made to be broken, Boogie GBO. Thank you for that Super Chat. Angry Titan for 5. Good morning, guys. Keep talking, and I'll keep working. We'll take a break. Angry Titan, you deserve it. Take a break and dial in. We appreciate you being here. Thank you for the Super Chat. Dakota for another 2, but a pick treat it like an afro. That's what Dakota wants you to do with your hair. Thank you, Dakota. Dylan for 10. The best team Georgia's played is Florida. Say what you want about Oregon. It's Pac-12 school. We are about to catch the dogs by surprise with speed and scheme. Don't let Georgia dink and dunk us. Thank you, Dylan, for the Super Chat. I think Georgia's legit. I've said it all year. I think they're a good football team loaded with talent, and they're gonna come to play. They're gonna be ready to go. If you don't think Georgia's gonna be dialed in and ready to try to prove a point on Saturday, they're going to be ready to play football. Fido for 5. Thank you for Super Chat. All of my friends are Georgia fans, and they swear by Georgia not scoring more than 20 points. Thank you, Fido. Is this? I want to say Pac-Man, and then I want to say Pie Man. P13 Man 2013. What is it?
Pie Man.
Yeah, because he's got a pie.
Yeah, and the 1-3 is supposed to be like IE, but
Yeah, I got to start looking at the profile pictures. That'll help me figure out these names. Pie Man 2013 for 5. I'm reminded of this year's Tennessee teams, basketball and baseball being fantastic and winning the SEC, yet falling flat in the postseason. I don't think anybody would complain about a football SEC championship and then losing in the college football playoff. I don't like that's the thing, man, when we talk about it. And again, I don't want to speak negativity and throw it out there, but you were just talking about it, Gabe. We were at 8-4. Like that's where this team was expected to be going into year 2 under Josh Heupel, and now you're playing with house money. That's the the phrase everybody keeps using. I just don't see them losing those last 3 games. South Carolina, Missouri, Vanderbilt. Those should be dominating wins. If you lose to Georgia on Saturday and you go 11-1, yeah, there's going to be a lot of hate. A lot of people on Twitter running their mouth, making fun of Tennessee, but the joke's on you, man. 11-1 in year 2, and recruiting is going to continue to build. Winning, it makes that so much easier. Danny White making the statement about NIL yesterday, that's huge. NIL is going to continue to take off, and there's no better place than Tennessee. We've got the money. You got everything you need right there in Knoxville. But regardless of what happens on Saturday, and I'm not playing that game. I'm not playing that moral victory crap. That's not what I'm trying to do. But it's been a special year in 2022.
Yeah, it has. No, again, not. There were very few people that legitimately thought this team could do what they're doing right now, and props to anyone who did, because whether it's battered Vol syndrome or just, kind of common sense. You look at what last season was, what the roster is, and you say, okay, yeah, we got a good offense, blah blah blah, but We'll challenge for the SEC in a couple years, blah, blah, blah. No, that's right now. So, we talk about NIL, and, I said it a while ago. I said it maybe a month or so ago that, Tennessee, there are a lot of programs that wanted to fight NIL. They wanted to fight it. They wanted to say, no, we don't want this, blah, 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 blah. All the the old head coaches like, Nick Saban that kind of aren't really with it, maybe Jimbo, blah, 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 whatever. But Tennessee is one of those programs that as soon as it became a thing, decided, okay, we want to go about this responsibly. We want to go about this the right way because it is huge. It could be huge. It is a massive thing for schools to be able to use. So Tennessee was one of those schools that decided, okay, we're going to go about this responsibly. And Tennessee, I fully believe Tennessee is the Power 5 spearhead of NIL. They are on top right now of the whether it's the collectives, NIL collectives surrounding the university, their own Spire Sports Group, the volunteer club. Tennessee is on top of the NIL game right now, and that is going to pay massive dividends in the very near future, and in the distant future as well. So the way Tennessee's gone about it has been extreme. It's been exemplary for other schools because Tennessee, a good reason why Tennessee, this could be the start of a dynasty, honestly, is because of Tennessee's willingness to get on board with NIL and do it in a responsible way, and really be able to use the love and support of their fan base to help boost the program.
I think it's just huge that for Danny White to give direction, right? There's so many things going on in the NIL space, like different clubs popping up. Spire Sports Group is at the forefront. We had James Clausen on the channel when all this first got rolling, and he broke it down and talked about it in great detail. I've been fortunate to build a relationship with those guys and understand what they're doing, and they get it. I can tell you guys, they get it. They understand what needs to be done, and we are an affiliate of Spire Sports Group. You can go to a link in the description below, and you can get involved in the NIL game. And some people don't really understand, well, what does that mean? It's you donate to Spire Sports Group, they take a very small cut of the money, and then everything else goes to the players. So whether that's for appearances or whatever it is, all that money is going to the student athlete. And look, we know what happens in college football. They're not using money to recruit, right? That's what you're not allowed to entice recruits. And that question kind of got posed to James Clausen, and the answer, he hit a home run. He said, "Yeah, we can't recruit. We can't recruit incoming kids. We can't recruit freshmen, even though you got rumors out there about contracts for certain players and all that stuff. I'm just telling you in context. Danny White said we got to play by the rules. You're not allowed to recruit incoming freshmen with NIL deals." But James Clausen made a good point when somebody was talking about the $1 million deal that Hendon Hooker just got with Mercedes. That's how you show the incoming freshman what you can do. Look, here is what Hendon Hooker's making. Here's what Cedric Tillman's making. Look at what Jalen Hyatt's getting after he's blown up. You can show them everything you have in place, but you guys can get involved in the NIL game as well. Again, there's a link in the description below. They kick a little bit of money our way. And you go join the volunteer club. You click the button there, and it will load you on in here. And it kind of explains everything to you, what it is. And, again, they've got it right here. 90% of every dollar goes directly to the athletes. And they just got different membership levels. I know Brad, who's usually in the chat for these morning streams. I haven't seen him today. I know he got a Hendon Hooker autograph. I think a Cedric Tillman autograph. I've seen some Jalen Hyatt autographs floating around. They do video messages, kind of like Cameo, different stuff like that. But then also you get access to like tailgate events. I know Brad's gone to several of those tailgates that they host for the volunteer club. So if you got time, if you got a little extra money, you want to support Tennessee in the NIL game, you can go check that out. Again, the link's in the description below. But if not, that's cool too. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Rick Roberts becomes a member of the channel. Thank you, Rick. We appreciate that. Joe for 2. Thank you for Super Chat. Score prediction 41-31 Vols. I dig it, Joe. Thank you for the Super Chat. It's funny watching the chat and how quickly they turn on you if you get just the slightest bit negative. I just shoot straight, guys. I shoot straight. If I was confident, I come on here with confidence. If I'm not, I tell it like it is, and that's how I feel going into this Tennessee-Georgia game coming up. And Gabe, if you look at the game and you want to break it down and analyze it, what kind of positive spin can you put on it? Where do you think Tennessee matches up well and has an opportunity to beat Georgia on Saturday?
I think they match up well in, honestly, a lot of areas. You could say that Georgia's tight ends maybe are could be a mismatch. We're just not really sure. I mean, Georgia's tight ends are talented. They can't be fully stopped, but how much can they be limited? They could be considered a mismatch for Georgia. But, I mean, everything other than that, like, I have a hard time really finding a place, whether it's coaching scheme or style of play or a specific position group that Tennessee doesn't at least match, if not really win that matchup. I mean, Georgia's offensive line is really good, but I mean, Tennessee's defensive line is something else. It's also really good. So I don't know. I agree. I agree. The tight ends are elite. Brock Bowers and Darnell Washington is a. I don't know. I don't know what type of genes he has in him to be able to be the athlete that he is at his size. But I don't know. Looking at the matchups, I really feel pretty good about Tennessee. I don't want to compare Georgia to Kentucky really, because they're very different. They're two very different teams, and Georgia is obviously much better than Kentucky. But as far as the sort of, style of play, how they want to move down the field, it's somewhat similar to Kentucky. How not a lot of football teams play like Tennessee's offense does, but Georgia takes some shots and things like that. But Georgia wants to they want to throw the ball short. They want to drive down the field and then run it down your throat. You look at Stetson Bennett and he's like, oh, he doesn't have that many touchdowns. It's because they get down in the red zone and just run it through you. You know what I mean? Like they get down there and they just they don't even really dink and dunk. It's very calculated the way they move down the field. They just don't move in 40-yard increments like Tennessee's offense does. So, but that, in my opinion, kind of favors Tennessee, because when you have these two conflicting styles of play, Tennessee's style of play is so overbearing that if they get ahead of you, they force you to try and play their game. So I don't know. People, here's the thing. I'm going to say this, okay? Georgia is a great football team. Tennessee is a great football team. This Georgia team is not unbeatable. This Georgia team is human. They are not a juggernaut. I'm just telling you, they're talented. I'm not saying that they're weak, because they are talented. They are a great team. But Tennessee is a great team. They're number 1 in the country. You know what I mean? This Georgia team is not unbeatable. There's a lot of people scared about this game. Boogie, case in point, Boogie
Clearly
is terrified. But I'm just looking from an objective standpoint. I am not too scared of Georgia, because yes, they're great. Tennessee is also great, and Georgia is beatable. I'm just that's my perspective on this. Like, I'm just saying, like, I'm people might be the people with the Batter Fall syndrome might be mad at me for saying that, but that's just how I feel. Like, it's just, I think they're beatable. They are.
Who's better, Alabama or Georgia?
Who's a better team, or who's a better matchup?
Who wins? I guess that's a way to answer a question with a question, but that's a fair point too. Who does Tennessee match up better with? And maybe that's how you can get me, because if you told me that Tennessee was going to end up in a shootout with Alabama, which they were, I like Tennessee's chances. I think Tennessee has better chances against Georgia in a shootout than they would have against Alabama, and they won a shootout with Alabama. So maybe you can sell me on that a little bit.
That's what I was going to say too. Is Bama matches up better with Tennessee. Bama has the offense capable of responding. That's what we saw happen. Georgia doesn't have that level of offense. They just don't. If we get ahead, they don't have the offense capable of responding like Alabama does. So I think Georgia is a more complete football team than Alabama. I think they probably have better size. I think Bama's a bad matchup for Georgia. I think Bama would probably beat Georgia. I just do. So
the thing is, Georgia hasn't had to do that. They haven't had that. You know, Oregon's really where the only game they were tested or should have been tested in, because you're talking about a top 10 team in Oregon, and it was just total domination. 49-3. That's a game to kick off the season. Everybody's kind of excited to see what this thing looks like, and Georgia just ended it early. Like, it was a boring football game. Nobody even watched it because it was such domination. And then people want to point out the Kent State game. They want to point out the Missouri game. I just feel like Georgia has been sleepwalking through this entire season. They haven't had to prove anything. They haven't had to be in a shootout. Stetson Bennett's only thrown 9 touchdowns on the season because he hasn't had to throw more than 9 touchdowns. They just have not been battle-tested like Tennessee is. And again, maybe that's something that plays into Tennessee's favor, because Tennessee has been through the fire. And even with all the battles they've been in, they're healthy. They're going into this football game healthy. They're finding themselves defensively. The defensive line's been getting after it. You mentioned the Georgia running game. I think Tennessee's defensive line is going to be able to shut down that Georgia running attack. I think it's going to come down to Stetson Bennett. Can they get pressure on Stetson Bennett? He's a short little kid. He's a short little kid. They like to roll the pocket. They like to get him outside, get him opened up so he can see and throw the football down the field. Can Tennessee contain him, keep him in the pocket, get him to the ground? I think that's going to be the key. And it seems like we say it every week, but that's the case. Get pressure on Stetson Bennett, shut him down, force him to make mistakes. Well, what's he got on the season? 3 interceptions, 9 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, only been sacked 7 times. But again, a lot of people in the chat talking about Uncle Lou's video yesterday, because Uncle Lou broke down the numbers statistically, Tennessee versus Georgia. And Tennessee looks a lot better than Georgia statistically in a lot of categories, but Georgia's still a good football team. I started to hype myself up, and then I went right back down into mopey depression of I don't know that they can get it done.
I think they can. I don't know what that means, for a lot of people, but I truly believe that Tennessee has a better chance in this game than a lot of people think they do. The ESPN FPI has Tennessee at like a 25.5% chance to win. Tennessee has probably at least a 50% chance to win this game. I'm being honest. So take that as it. But yeah, get after Stetson Bennett. Get him to the ground. It's as simple as that. We take away their run game. Same deal for like it was for Kentucky. Take away their run game and then get after Stetson Bennett. He's similar to. He's not necessarily a similar player to Will Levis, but he's similar in the way that I'm not sure that he can stand there and make the play, put the team on his back and make the plays like Bryce Young. Bryce Young could run back there all day in the backfield, make a play, and keep his team alive. Will Levis can't do that. I don't think Stetson Bennett can do that. Stetson Bennett has a lot of weapons around him, but at some point he's going to have to put the team on his back and make a play. And I just don't know if he has that ability. So everybody's telling me to shut up, so I'm going to do it. Go ahead, play the clip.
I'm starting to come around. I'm starting to come around. I'm starting to feel it again. I'm starting to feel that. I'm starting to like the matchup. The more we talk about it, listening to Ben talk about it was kind of turning me around too. Like Ben McKee came on here, picked Alabama to win, and now he comes on acting like Tennessee's just going to go handle business. I like it. I'll shut up too. I know you guys want the clip. JT Maxwell for $1. Thank you for super chat. He came back later and said that was for a haircut, Gabe. So that's what he said. Not lying. Drew Shorter for $50. That ain't cheap. You gotta play the clip.
Money isn't everything. It's the only thing. And everyone has a price for the $1 million man.
Drew for $50. Thank you for the super chat. Very, very generous. We appreciate that. Says Tennessee's offense has been electric all season. Defense is starting to heat up. We are the healthiest we have been all season. Bring pressure, force Bennett to get rid of the ball while in the pocket. He's only 5'11". Vols win 42-21. Thinking about that Kentucky defense too, the game that defense played against Kentucky, and that's what I said to Ben. If that defense shows up, I said they win by 2 scores. What did he say, like 20 or 30 points if that defense shows up? But I mean, I just feel like as the season progresses, the more it goes on, this defense is getting more aggressive. They're getting more in your face, and they're living and dying by it. And they had success with it. And we talked about, Danico Slaughter and Brandon Turnage out there playing corner. And maybe those guys are better at playing that press coverage and getting in your face and forcing you to try to beat them over the top. And if we get something close to that type of coverage on the outside, I think Danico Slaughter, not only did he had the interception, he had the big hit that led to an interception. I think he was targeted 3 times and forced turnovers on 2 of those 3 targets. How much better of a performance can you possibly ask for? But do you think they can duplicate that? Do you think they can bring that same type of performance to Athens tomorrow?
I think they can. Whether they will is going to be, another story. It's going to be played out on the football field. I mean, different players, the matchups are different. Georgia definitely has, more weapons than Kentucky. I wouldn't say necessarily in the wide receiver room, but, I think that Georgia has a lot of weapons, and Tennessee's defense is going to have to come play. But I think they will. I mean, we've talked about it earlier in the season, is this coaching staff's ability to find a good thing in their team and just roll with it. The ability to fix mistakes from week to week. So if these coaches turn on the film from Saturday, look at the performances, look at Danico Slaughter, and see some good things, some changes. Obviously Danico Slaughter starting at cornerback, like, If that's a good thing for them, they're just gonna keep rolling with it, and they're gonna do what it takes to put their defense in the best position to win. So I certainly think they can get in there and maybe not a whole lot of sacks, but it doesn't necessarily need to be as much about sacks in this game as it does need to be about pressure in passing scenarios. Getting Stetson Bennett under pressure, making him throw under pressure, making him throw poorly. That's what our game plan needs to be, because I think we'll generate more turnovers that way rather than maybe bringing him down. So, I'll take sacks too, but we'll see. I think Tennessee defense certainly can show up in this game.
Robbie, they're talking about the freeze point, and a lot of people are using that terminology because of Josh Pate. That's what he was talking about, the freeze point. Can you cool it off enough? Can Georgia stop this Tennessee offense enough? And I mean, my gosh, if you had told me Tennessee was going to break 50 against Alabama before the season, there's no way I'm believing that. So why can't they go out and score 50 on this Georgia team? And there's a number out there somewhere of I just what's the magic number? 30 points? 35 points, what is it? And I think Lou talked about that Wednesday. I think he had it somewhere around 30. He doesn't think Georgia can get to that number. Look, Tennessee's going to get there. Somebody in the chat said I'm crazy. I don't know if they were talking to me or talking to each other. Said you're crazy if you don't think Tennessee's going to score more than 17. You would have thought they would have scored more than 17 last year. But this football team is so much better than that team a year ago. And so much of that is player development. We've talked about the offensive line, like how much that offensive line has improved from year 1 to year 2. You return 4 starters, and those guys have gotten better. I don't think enough people talk about Cooper Mays and how important he is to this football team and getting everybody lined up, set, ready to go. We all know they play fast. You don't think about Cooper Mays getting up there, getting the offensive line set, getting the play called and ready to go. Cooper Mays has been a stud. Some of those guys on that offensive line are playing themselves into the NFL. Tennessee's going to get theirs, 100%. I think they score more than 17 points. Robert 45 for 5. Thank you for super chat. Boogie, Georgia played the Ducks with a new coach and a new quarterback. If the Dogs and the Ducks played right now, the Ducks would blow the Dogs out. It might be a closer game, man. That's a tough sell. That is a tough sell to tell me that a team that lost 49-3 is going to blow the other team out. That's a hard sell. I get the point, though. I get the point. New coach, new quarterback, new system, all that stuff. But I think Oregon's a pretty good football team, and I think Georgia is a lot better than Oregon. Rolly season for 2. Thank you for super chat. Gabe said Kentucky less than 10. Take his word, Boog. Okay, I'll believe him. Look, I picked Tennessee to win this game. That's the funny thing. But if I came on here and I was all hoopla and it's a sunshine and rainbows all the time, would that be fun? Maybe it would be. Maybe that's part of the problem because generally I am pretty optimistic. So the second there's any little bit of doubt, everybody's like, who is this guy? We want Boogie back. Hey, man, I just try to keep it straight around here. Gate City Blue Devil for $20.22. We appreciate the super chat. Omari Thomas is my new favorite 21 GBO. That kid, and again, going into the year, who's going to replace Matthew Butler on the inside? That was the big question. And it was there's so many guys on this team that we had that discussion about, right? It's who's going to replace Matthew Butler. Can Omari Thomas do it? Omari Thomas has got to rise to the occasion. He's got to take that next step. You say the same crap over and over and over in the preseason. You say about Jalen Hyatt. He's got to rise to the occasion, got to take that next step. And now we're seeing him do it. And again, that goes back to player development and progression, and that's the name of the game in college football. And yes, you got to be able to recruit. I'm not underselling that, but when people talk about Jimmys and Joes versus X's and O's, and I was the same way, and I would sit here and I would make excuse after excuse after excuse for Jeremy Pruitt, for Butch Jones, for Derek Dooley. You got to give them time. You got to let them recruit. Yada yada yada. The reality is, if you come in and you're a good ball coach, you're going to show progression immediately. If you're a good football coach, your team's going to get better. And that's what's happening with Josh Heupel. And it's not just him. It's the entire coaching staff. You're seeing true player development, and that's why we're sitting here undefeated with everything on the line in year 2.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, again, like when Josh Heupel got hired, who saw this coming? Who said that in year 2 we're going to be competing for SEC championships and potentially national championships? I don't think a lot of people thought that was going to be the case. But it speaks a lot to their ability to develop players, offensively and defensively. It's done both. I mean, Rodney Garner, I said it a couple weeks ago. It's like, if our starter doesn't want to perform, there's a guy behind him that's going to come in and make plays. He's playing these freshmen that are playing meaningful snaps in year 1. We're talking about Josh Josephs, Elijah Herring, pick your poison, name your player. Like they're everywhere. This defensive line is just a swarm of athletes. And then, I mean, in the secondary too, we've seen guys get better even through this season. We lost a couple guys, started off the year pretty rough, and we're seeing them get seemingly a good bit better, playing just more solid, being more mentally, tough and stable, not breaking. So it's a testament to our coaches and our administration. I want to bring something up. I'm gonna take a right here and bring something up, because there's been a lot of debate about the environment between the hedges this weekend in Athens, with some people saying, well, I won't say some people, I'll say a lot of people in and around the Georgia program and media saying that Athens is going to be very dangerous. Athens is going to be a crazy environment, and it's going to be a great environment. Don't get me wrong. Georgia fans are going to come hyped. It's going to be exciting. It's a huge game. So the environment is going to be, it's going to be rowdy. But a lot of players, Eric Ainge, Ramon Foster, all coming up and saying, Sanford ain't that hard to play in. Sanford isn't that loud. There's this post bragging about Sanford getting up to like 110 decibels. I saw someone say that the UT Martin game reached like 112 at halftime. So, they talk about that as if it's going to hurt. Obviously our offense doesn't have to be out on the field at Neyland while it's super loud, but they hear it, I personally, I think that people are giving the away, the home field advantage for Georgia way too much credence. Joel Klatt picked Georgia to win this game because of Tennessee playing on the road, and he brought up the Pitt game right before he made that. But he said 15 minutes earlier, and I love Joel Klatt. I think he's great. I love listening to him. He's very enjoyable to talk to. He knows his stuff. He does. But just 20 minutes earlier, he was talking about how the LSU win was one of the most impressive wins in college football. And then he talks about Pitt, which was 3-4 weeks earlier, and says that because Tennessee's on the road, that's the reason they're going to lose. Like they didn't beat LSU 40-13 in their own stadium. So, like any away game, the stadium is going to play a factor. But I don't think it's going to play as big of a factor as maybe people. It's not going to be this earth-shattering noise like a lot of people are saying. I mean, even Kirby Smart had to go out of his way to ask fans to be loud. That's a coach that knows that unless they really try, it's not going to be enough. So I don't know. I wonder what their
fan base. I wonder what their mindset is. How are they viewing this game? We view it as everything, right? Everything's on the line. Such a huge, because it's been a minute. It's been a minute since we've been here, and that's the excitement in this fan base right now is amazing. It's so much fun to be a Tennessee fan right now, and to have the opportunity to come on YouTube and hang out and talk about Tennessee football with all these people in the chat, and just the excitement in this fan base in general is amazing. But I wonder what Georgia's mindset truly is as a fan base. And I posed that question to Uncle Lou Wednesday about, are you scared? How do you view Tennessee? And he said, yeah, you'd be stupid to not be scared. So I wonder what type of mindset, is it just another Saturday to them? Is it just another Saturday where they expect to show up and dominate and it not even be a football game? Because, going into that Alabama game, didn't have a whole lot of confidence. We knew Tennessee could win. We knew they could. But we brought the fire like we knew we were going to compete and dominate. Like we bring it. That's what Neyland Stadium does. And, I thought Josh Pate summed this up pretty good when he talked about this exact same conversation. He said he didn't really think that it was going to be an advantage for Georgia to be playing at home as much as it was. Tennessee wouldn't have the advantage of playing in Neyland Stadium, if that makes sense. And you go back and you look at that Alabama game, they had 17 penalties in that game, and the crowd was responsible for some of that. They were having trouble communicating, and it's not so much that Georgia's going to be this hostile environment, which I think they'll be pretty fired up, but it's the fact that Yeah, they don't. Tennessee won't have that hostile Neyland environment that helped lead to victory over Alabama. Look, the players go out and make plays, but an environment. There's a reason that Vegas gives you a few points one way or the other if you're playing at home or on the road. So it will make a difference. Drew Shorter for another 5. Thank you for the super chat. Also, look at how Kent State had success on Georgia. RPO screens and stretching the field. Kent State runs the same style of offense that Tennessee does. You know, I said it. I mean, I think Tennessee's going to get theirs. I think they're going to go score. I just think Georgia's a good football team. It's the same thing that we talk about with Tennessee's defense, right? All you got to do is get a couple of stops, force a couple of turnovers, and that's how you win football games with this offense, scoring the way it's scoring. On the flip side of that, for Georgia, if I'm a Georgia fan, I'm saying force a turnover, get a 3-and-out early, and then let's go chew up the clock. What Kentucky wanted to do. Of course, we saw how that worked out for Kentucky. They were not able to do it. It's an intriguing matchup. It is an intrigue. I've looked at it 100 different ways. And yes, I said it earlier, a path to victory. Like I laid out the path to victory for that Kentucky game step by step by step. It's pretty easy when you look at it. This Georgia game is a little bit more complex. It's a little bit different because they can run the football. Stetson Bennett can make plays. He's not had to this point. That's the difference if you want to talk about stats. He's not had to do it to this point, but he can do it.
Yeah, this is gonna be a good game. I know I'm being annoyingly confident right now, and I don't want it to be disrespectful to Georgia because
be disrespectful. Screw Georgia. No, Go in on them hard, Gabe. Come on, bring it.
No, listen, but I think Georgia is a great football team. I think that arguably there are 3 SEC teams that deserve to be in the playoff, and it's Alabama, Tennessee, and Georgia. I don't think it's necessarily going to work out that way, though. I just don't think it unless Georgia beats Alabama, Georgia beats us, and then Alabama in the SEC championship, and then we might sneak in on Georgia's coattails. But I'm confident. I am really confident in this for this game. I really not that I don't think there's a chance that Georgia beats us, but I just don't think Tennessee loses to Georgia this weekend in Athens. I don't care if it's in Athens. I really don't. I don't think Tennessee cares. You know, Byron Young said he likes it better when they go and play on the road because they don't have to communicate they don't have to communicate with the crowd noise. You know, I don't think it's. I just don't think Tennessee loses. I just don't. I think Tennessee's going to go out there and take care of business. I think Tennessee is more explosive, and I think that plays in their favor. I don't think Georgia can come from behind. I don't know if Georgia can stop us coming from behind if we have to. I just don't think Georgia can stop this team. I just don't. I don't know what else to say. When you look at the matchups, you know, you look at the statistics. This is not the best matchup for Georgia. And yet Georgia fans are just going to act like Darnell Washington is just going to take the ball from the 1-yard line and run it through everybody to touchdown 10 times in a row. Like you were talking about, how do Georgia fans feel? Georgia fans are
awful, horrible.
That's not where I was going.
Disgusting human beings. Oh, sorry.
That's not where I was going. Georgia fans, a lot of Georgia fans that I've seen are very confident. They're very confident. And I know a lot of people have said that they know Georgia fans that aren't very confident, but I've seen a lot of Georgia fans that are kind of like excited for this game, but just kind of writing this game off. I don't know. I think that sort of speaks to where their program is, where they just think they're this high and mighty thing that can't be touched. They're going to find out.
But there's also no respect for Tennessee. None.
No.
That's a huge part of it. A huge part of it. And that's the conversation we've had over and over and over, right? Like moving the goalpost. We keep saying that. I keep saying that because it's what freaking everybody does in life. Everybody does it. They devalue any accomplishment another person has. That's what miserable, disgusting, garbage human beings like Georgia fans do. They move the goalpost. But, you know, it's like We saw it with the LSU win, Florida win. It's like none of Tennessee's ranked wins matter. So I think that's a big part of their confidence is maybe some of it is who they are, but also some of it is history. That's why when you get in these debates, in these conversations about AP polls and rankings, and people want to talk about the Tennessee of the last 20 years. They don't want to talk about the Tennessee of 2022. They want to bring up Jeremy Pruitt's record. That has nothing to do with 2022. It has nothing to do with Josh Heupel. Like it's irrelevant. Derek Dooley, irrelevant. Doesn't matter.
An Ohio State fan did that the other day on Wednesday during the Uncle Lou show. I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know that any season other than this season was the most relevant one. I didn't know that this season wasn't relevant. So if Ohio State loses, that's and doesn't go to the playoff, then that's fine, right? Because at least y'all won in 2014. Right.
It's like people do that with everything, not just college football. They shift numbers and they always make the argument go in their favor. And you can do that with anything. That's just the world we live in. We got some more super chats here. Let me jam through them real quick. Tennessee guard guy for 20. Thank you for super chat. Used to get angry at the John Ward intro where he says the number one Volunteers put everything on the line because that hasn't applied to Tennessee in a long time until now. You know, that's an old intro. But, hey, that's $20. I won't play the clip, but I'm going to play that old intro. Let me see. I got to find it because it's got the old emojis on it. But I'm going to play it because it is fitting, Tennessee guard guy, that he talks about being number one. Let's go listen to it.
The number one undefeated Volunteers prepare to race onto the field. Everything is riding on this football game. So there's a special intensity, a special urgency. Here come the Volunteers. Wherever you listen throughout the world, it's football time in Tennessee.
To mess up and lag. StreamYard ruined the great John Ward. Me Ugly for 5. Thank you for super chat. Okay. Georgia wins the toss. Do they defer?
I've seen some interesting things about this.
I would think they would want to take the football, is what I would think.
I would also think that they want to take the football, and to me, that's kind of a good sign to me. If they win the toss and then take the football, that's a good sign to me of how they think this game is going to go, what their game plan is. Because if their game plan is just play keep away from Tennessee's offense, it ain't going to turn out well for them.
It's always one of those back and forth conversations, though. It's like, what if Tennessee? What do you want Tennessee to do? Do you want them to have the ball first? It's like, okay, yeah, we get the ball first in Athens, go score, quiet the crowd. But how much more does it quiet the crowd if Georgia gets the ball first and that Tennessee defense goes out and forces a 3 and out? Then they get the ball and go score. So that you can twist it again. It's kind of like the conversation we just had. You can make it fit whatever need you want. But there's something about your defense when it's all about your Tennessee offense. There's something about that defense going out there first and shutting down Georgia and getting the ball back that I think would be huge. But yeah, you want to score quick. That's going to be a key, man. But just go score quick and see if you can get that crowd out of it. Riggs for 5. GBO, if we start fast and go up 2 scores, I don't see Georgia coming back. Georgia doesn't want to have to play catch up. That's any team. That's the beauty of this offense. That's the beauty of scoring 50 points a game. Nobody wants to play catch up with this Tennessee team and we've seen. You said the word dictate a couple of weeks ago, and I love that because it's true. Tennessee dictates everything in the football game with their offense.
Yeah, that Tennessee's offense is so potent that it kind of makes the game wrap around what it's capable of doing. Tennessee's tempo is overbearing. If Georgia wants to try and play their game and short pass and run down the throat all the way down the field, then Tennessee comes back and scores and goes up 14. That is going to have to change the way Georgia plays the football in the game. They're going to have to literally move away from their game plan and try and kind of get in a mode of desperation. That's how this potent Tennessee offense gets you. If you get behind, you can't come back unless you do something drastic or Tennessee shoots itself in the foot. Unless Tennessee doesn't execute, they don't keep the foot on the gas. Tennessee keeps their foot on the gas, and you're having to play from 2 scores down. You have to try and meld into their style of football. You have to try and take more chances. You have to try and push the ball further down the field. And that's how we saw Will Levis make so many mistakes. That's why Kentucky that's why Kentucky couldn't put, because Kentucky could Kentucky have put 14 or 20 points on the board if after they were already down 2 or 3 scores, they decided just to play their ball and just kind of toss it down the field 4 yards a pass, blah, 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 whatever. They probably could have, but they couldn't do that to win the game. They tried to win the game. They started taking chances down the field and couldn't do it. They could not do it. They tried to play Tennessee ball and it didn't work. So, or at least as capable that they are of playing that style. So there's been a lot of debate as to how imperative it is for Tennessee to get off to a fast start. And I think if Tennessee gets off to a fast start, that's great. I don't necessarily think they need it to win. But if Tennessee gets off to a fast start in this game, offensively and defensively, even a touchdown and a field goal up is big. That is huge right there, because that makes Georgia, they'll stick to their game plan for a while. But if we can get a few key stops, get up 2 or 3 scores by halftime or whatever, that's going to be big. That is going to be a big deal and a big factor on how this game plays out in the second half.
It took Tennessee 15 seconds to move the ball and kick the game-winning field goal against Alabama. That's what Josh Heupel, this offense, this football team, changes people. It changed Brian Kelly. It changed Billy Napier. It changed Nick Saban. Nick Saban's probably the only coach that didn't change too much. He kind of did what he does. But people are coaching scared against Tennessee. We've seen it multiple times this year. How does Kirby Smart respond if his team gets down a couple of scores? Does he panic or does he stick to the game plan? I think Wednesday night, I think it was when I said it, Josh Heupel hasn't been out-coached all year. Not one time has Josh Heupel been out-coached. I like his odds going up against Kirby Smart on Saturday to be the better coach on the field as well. Rolly season for another 2. Thank you for Super Chat. Team is confident they'll win. We should be too. Man, I've been confident. Not confident. I was okay early in the week. The closer it gets to game time, I become an absolute train wreck. Rocky Top Tom for 5. Thank you for Super Chat. Dog fans should be confident they're defending champs with a hell of a defense. Ain't going to stop the UT train. Tennessee 45, Georgia 38. We still have over 560 people watching live. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on this Monday. Do us a favor, smash that thumbs up. We are going to wrap it up, though. I got to jump off here. I just want to point you guys in the right direction. I'm going to guide you guys through your Friday. If you want more content, guess what? You got more content coming your way, because Eric Kane sent me a text and said, Boogie, I think I'm going to throw my hat into the ring for this live thing. Eric Kane is going to be going live over at Locked On Vols at 12 o'clock. So in about an hour and a half, Eric Kane is going live. So you got more content. Go check out Eric. I'm going to be popping in there at 12:20, talking Tennessee, Georgia. Maybe I'll go drink another energy drink, get some confidence. Maybe I can come in there with some confidence and some fire. Seth said it's Friday, Boogie. What did I say, Thursday?
You said Monday.
Did I say Monday?
Yeah, it's the morning show. It is what it is. It blends together.
If you guys knew, like this morning, I'm like, my head is in the clouds. If you guys knew what was going on in my life away from this camera, you'd be like, Boogie, how do you – I understand now why you think it's Monday and not Friday. I got a lot of stuff going on, but, man, there's nowhere I would rather be than right here on YouTube with you guys. You guys know the deal. Go check out the merch, bonfire.com/store/Talkin VAWLS. Also, go check out Spire Sports Group. That link's in the description as well. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll be live an hour before kickoff tomorrow. I got you, Gabe. And also immediately following the game, so make sure you dial in for that. What do you got?
Well, I got a score prediction.
Bring it to me. What do you got?
Y'all do yours on Wednesday nights. I do the Friday morning or the third, whatever we do, the morning show. So I've had a little extra time to think about this game, and I'm still waking up, so it's not going to be just beautiful words coming out of my mouth right now. But the more I've thought about it, the more confident I am for this game. I don't think Georgia matches up well with Tennessee's style of play. They have athletes. They have great players. I don't think they can put it all together and outscore this Tennessee team. I don't think that this defense can stop Tennessee enough. Because Tennessee could put up 50 on anybody. Tennessee doesn't need to put up 50 in this game. I don't think they need to put up 40 in this game to beat Georgia. Sanford Stadium is going to be something, but it's not going to be everything. Tennessee is going to win this football game. Tennessee's defense is going to get a couple of key stops when it needs to. And their offense is going to roll 38-24 Tennessee by 2 scores.
Love it. I love it. I got to do a better job remembering what day of the week it is so I can get your score prediction in there. It's always weird, though, because we don't always do the Friday. So it's not like you do a Friday morning prediction every week. No. I'll do a better job hosting this show. Robert Tuck for 2. Thank you for Super Chat. Georgia cannot score enough or stop us. I hope you guys are right. What was it? I can't even remember my prediction. I think it was like 38-31. It wasn't mine. It was the old man's at the gym.
I can't remember.
You guys always changing your name in the chat. I see you change it all the time. Somebody's eventually going to pop up, and the username is just going to be the old man at the gym. That's going to be their username. That'll be here on tomorrow. Wait and see. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up. Make sure you guys go check out Locked On Vols going live right at noon. I'll be in there about 12:20 talking Tennessee, Georgia, hanging out with Eric Kane for his first ever live stream. Should be a lot of fun. But that's going to do it for this one. For Gabe, my name is Boogie Bentley. This is the Talkin Vols Network. Go Big Orange.
That we call home and it's night and I'm alone and